On Monday, New York City welcomed back international travelers from the UK for the first time in almost 2 years. It was a pivotal day for the city's tourism industry and an emotional day for so many who have been separated from loved ones. CBS2's Jenna DeAngelis got an exclusive look at it all on the first flight from London.
We hopped on the famous London Eye, a rotating observation wheel, to get a 360 view of the city, which has so much rich history. The sun was shining over Parliament Square and other notable landmarks, which we walked to for a closer view. Big Ben, unfortunately for us, is undergoing restoration. But we stood outside Westminster Abbey, picturing all the historic moments which took place here, from royal weddings to coronations. Of course, we couldn't miss the breathtaking Buckingham Palace. Other stops included the iconic Tower Bridge and the Tower of London. There was so much to see and not enough time to see it. London is known to be a leading tourism destination, as is New York City, which is why tourism leaders say it's so crucial the United States welcomed back international visitors. The reason behind this trip. Before we left, I met with Chris Haywood with New York City's official tourism agency in the heart of it all, Times Square.
The UK is typically our #1 source of international travel, and that has been that way for many, many years. They are so important to the lifeblood of New York City tourism.
Haywood explains why inviting these visitors back is a turning point for the city's recovery.
The international visitor accounts for about 20% of total visitor volume in any given year, but they account for 50% of total visitor spending and 50% of all hotel bookings. They're a lucrative segment because they stay longer and they spend more.
It's so important for the millions of people who work in tourism, and then for the 1.2 million Americans who work for British-owned companies right here in the US of A.
A huge moment, which the CEO of British Airways detailed further on our flight from London's Heathrow Airport to JFK Monday.
For UK and EU travellers, we haven't been able to travel for over 600 days, so it's important for friends and family. It's also very important for business because, of course, trade between the UK and Europe is a very, very important part of both economies, and we're now able to get people back doing business again.
The airline invited us on the journey, which began with a synchronized takeoff with Virgin Atlantic. On board were many people eager to reconnect with loved ones after 2 years apart.
I'm going to see my sister. It's been too long. I'm looking forward to it.
I just feel so emotional. It's just like a dream come true.
What makes you the most overcome with emotion?
I just need to hug my sister. It's just been the hardest 2 years ever.
Upon arrival to JFK, the travelers were met with a warm welcome and long-awaited embraces. Each reunion more emotional than the next.
It's the best thing ever. I love you so much, sis.
How do you feel? Your answer?
Are you happy? Are you happy? It's very happy.
And look who's here. Jenna is back here in New York with us now. Wow, what a special trip you got to experience there.
It was nothing short of unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. So in nearly 2 years, you had tourists from 33 countries trying to come in, not able to. So the mood on the plane, please tell me about that.
Excitement is the first word that comes to mind when I think about that, but emotional. I mean, you heard that woman talking about just being able to hug her sister. I think something we all learned in this pandemic is how important our personal relationships are, and not being able to hug a loved one, having that taken away from you, is so hard. And for 2 years, so from you saw it on the plane to the landing, being able to see these families reunite was just incredible.
Tell me why travelers were so excited to come back to New York.
Because it's New York City.
Hey.
I mean, everyone we spoke to had plans when they were coming here. I met 2 sisters who were taking their mom to New York City for her 70th birthday. They had a Broadway show booked, they had dinners booked, they couldn't wait to be in Times Square. The energy in New York City is why they said they wanted to come here. I think sometimes we forget how amazing the city we live in is. And
yeah, you can't match it. You really can't. So tell me, I wanted to ask you about security. What was it like going through that and the COVID safety protocols?
So in order to get on the plane to go to the UK, we had to fill out what was called a passenger locator form. It was a really in-depth form, but I couldn't finish that form until I booked a COVID test for when I was in the UK. So we had to book a test for when we were there to get this form in place. They checked the form at the airport at JFK. British Airways checked it to get over there. Now, to come back, we had to show our COVID test results, our negative COVID test results, and also fill out a form for the U.S. that showed we had a full vaccination status.
All right, good to know. What would you say is the big difference? I know you got to spend a few days in London. The difference between tourism in the UK and tourism here?
Well, I think we're talking about two major cities. It's more about the similarities. Tourism is huge in London, just as it is here in New York. So I think that the similarity is that we are missing our tourists here just as much as they are there. I know from my research, the time to travel to London, most people go during the summer, so maybe we were on their off season a little bit. But something like the London Eye, for example, we had a 5-minute wait to get on that. When I had previously went to London, we waited on a long line to get to that. So I think they're craving tourists just like we are. And I know Americans have been able to go there much sooner than we opened our borders to international tourists. But I think that's sort of a universal feeling, is that the UK wants tourists just as much as we do.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, so the pandemic really affected the hospitality industry, and we're hearing that tourists account for 50% of spending in Manhattan. I wanted to know what you think will be the impact now that the borders are open.
Well, when I spoke to the tourism expert, he said it couldn't come at a more crucial time. The holidays in New York City are a big time for us. So they think over the next few months we'll really start to see an influx of tourists. I'm actually excited to go to Times Square because I want to feel that energy again. When I went there and spoke to him, you saw the video, we were still, there was space to walk around.
I mean, and Times Square is so unexpected, yeah.
Somebody messaged me and said, I work at a restaurant in Times Square, and on Monday we had a lot of reservations with European travelers, which was really, really exciting to hear for them.
What's your advice for those who may be considering a trip to London or Europe? Your advice for international travel?
I think that you need to be organized and prepared. There are a lot of steps you have to go through to get to, at least in the UK, to get there. Forms you have to fill out, tests you have to book, things you have to have in place, and likewise to come back. So know what you need to do to get there. Of course, travel if and when you feel safe to travel. You have to wear a mask in the airport, you have to wear a mask on the plane. So just know sort of what the steps are to get there, and then enjoy it once you're there, because to be able to travel again is just the best feeling.
It really is pretty incredible. Well, so great to see you again. I'm so glad you had a wonderful time.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Welcome back to New York.